Welcome back to MVM. Today I am bringing you a preview of a new game called Exploration that's on Kickstarter right now from Ply Games. Exploration is a game about exploring space. We've reached a level of technology where we're able to go out and kind of explore our galaxy, and that is the focus of this game. So it's not a 4X, even though it might look like one when you look at it on the board. This is a game about building a fleet of spaceships, upgrading those spaceships, and dropping recon modules across space to ultimately score victory points and win the game. So you're going to see this game set up here in front of me. This is a Kickstarter prototype. I am using prototype components and prototype miniatures here on the board. Every ship in the game is going to be represented by a mini, and you're going to be able to label those in your player color. As you can see here, I just have the ships out, so I've had to just keep track of whose ship is whose, but the final version is going to be different than this, but the board is going to look the same, and you're going to have all these same components. Now, I have already set up the game, and that's done in a few steps. First of all, each player is going to get a random spaceport, and I have Cape Canaveral here. This spaceport determines a few different things. For one, it determines your starting location on the map. Each of these has a different port on Earth, and they're going to come out of that spaceport going different directions. In addition, each of these has a different orbit direction. So your ships are actually going to be orbiting around Earth in different ways based on which group you start with, and that's going to become more apparent as I explain how the game is played. In addition, you're going to have an XP tracker down here, which is going to score you victory points at the end of the game. And up here you have a tech track that's going to let you proceed down this, sometimes having to choose between two different technologies. And this is going to make your play a little different than the people at the table around you. So everyone's going to get one of these. They're going to set it in front of them. You're going to deal out mission cards. Everyone is going to be given 2 secondary missions and 1 primary mission. And these are going to be goals for them to complete during the game. For example, some of them are very easy. Like this just has me buying a maneuver module, which I'll talk about, to score points. But your primary mission goals are going to be much more difficult. And there are a bunch of these. I mean, there's a whole stack of these available. So you're going to be seeing different missions every time you play the game. In addition, you're going to see 5 maneuver cards, which you'll see here on the top of the board. These maneuver cards are going to be available for use during the game. You're going to be able to pay a certain cost, and they're going to let you do a specific maneuver with one of your ships. Now, there's only ever going to be 5 of these for every game you play, so the same maneuvers are not going to come out every time. In addition, above that, you're going to have a roll of developments. These developments can be purchased and used for you to give you some kind of benefit. These developments will replenish from a deck though. So those are going to keep coming out, and you're going to see, again, they're going to come out in a different order every game you play. In addition, you're going to see a deck of ship cards. You don't start with a ship, but you're going to be able to get one pretty quickly. And you're going to see a deck of obstacles or hazards that sits here on the board, and those are going to come out over the course of the game as different things happen. This is obviously a game already set up. This board will actually be empty at the start of the game, but I've already set it up so I can show you a few things as I describe them. Once you've set up the game, you choose a first player, and you're ready to start playing the game. Each player in order is going to play through a certain number of phases. The first phase is preparation. During this phase, you're going to gain income. Everyone gains an income of 5 credits. You're going to see up here a pile of credit tokens that you're going to be using to pay for ships and modules and things like that. In addition, you're going to be able to increase your technology level. I talked about that tech track here. You're going to have a marker that tracks which level you're on. Every turn, you're just going to gain a level automatically. So you don't have to do anything to gain these technologies other than make a decision of which of these branching areas you want to move down during the game. Once you've increased your technology, you're going to be able to choose to purchase any one of these development cards. Now, these development cards have a cost associated with them that you have to play. They also have a technology level. For example, this has a tech level of 1. Since we already all went up to level 1 at the start of the game, we'd be able to purchase this card. However, some of these developments have higher tech levels. You're going to have to wait until later in the game to purchase those cards. And these will have varying effects that are going to either give you resources or benefit you on the board in different ways. And there are a ton of these different developments, so you'll have to look and see what's available every time you check the row. After that, you're going to have the option to purchase and build spaceships. Now, this is a little random here, but you'll see a deck of spaceship cards. You're going to draw 3 of these, and you're going to be able to choose one. And you're going to look at these, and again, just like the developments, they have costs associated with them, and they have tech levels associated with them. So some of these spaceships you can't build until you reach the correct level. However, you can still take a ship and put it in front of you to build later. For example, I might take this destroyer and place it in front of me. There isn't a lot of combat in this game, but you do have the ability to ram and collide with other ships. In addition, every ship is going to have module slots. When you build your spaceship, when it comes out in front of you and you pay your costs, you're going to be able to take a module and place it there. Now, these modules can do a variety of different things, and there's a whole player aid that shows you what all these modules do, but they're going to increase your stats or give you other bonuses to that ship. Now, some of these ships only have one module slot, some have a bunch. In addition, you're going to have special modules that can be attached to your ships, and they can be dropped off to score you points in the game. And in fact, building these special modules and dropping them off is one of the core ways to score points. So once you've done all that and gotten your development cards and your spaceships and everything, then you're going to plan your maneuver. You're going to look at these maneuver cards that I talked about earlier and decide if you want to apply the effects of one of them. To do so, you're going to pay that cost. Now, you don't take the card or anything, you just do what the card says. So these maneuver cards are actually going to stay out for future players to be able to use them as well. By looking at these maneuver cards and knowing what they do, you're going to be able to see the options that other players have. Once you finish that entire preparation phase, you're going to get into the exploration phase, which is more of the meat of the game. This is when you're actually going to be able to spend energy and move your ships around the board. So earlier in the preparation phase, if I had purchased that destroyer, I would be able to take one of these models and launch it from my spaceport. And if you look here on the board, you're going to see the planet Earth, and you're going to see the different spaceports color-coded and symbol-coded to each of the different players. I'm Cape Canaveral, so I launch from here, and I would get to move my ship out onto the first space. Now, from that point, I can move my ships around the board, but you have to pay attention to your orbit direction. For example, I'm going to be orbiting clockwise. So every time I move a ship, it's going to move clockwise. And you're going to see all these symbols on the board. Some of these symbols are going to give you money, which you can spend on future turns. Some of them are going to give you experience points, which, like I said, will turn into victory points. And others are going to cause hazards. If you pass through a hazard, you're going to have to draw this card off the deck and deal with whatever this hazard tells you to do. And sometimes these are going to cost you experience points. Sometimes they're going to cost you resources or modules and things like that. They're all negative. So you really want to avoid these hazards if possible. However, you might be asking, if you're stuck on a looping orbit, how are you going to avoid these hazards? Well, you can actually spend energy to move farther or closer to Earth. And this is going to allow you to move to an adjacent circle and then continue your rotation that way. So in doing so, you can actually slingshot your way away from Earth onto one of these branching paths. In addition, there are some maneuvers that actually allow you to change the direction of your ship. So suddenly you're going counterclockwise instead of clockwise. Now, I had mentioned earlier that there is a thing called collisions, which can happen when two ships run into each other. For example, if I move a ship straight into another one, I cause a collision. We both lose a resistance point. The ship I hit moves backwards one, and I move into the space. Now, every ship has a resistance number. If you deal damage equal to that resistance number, that ship is actually completely destroyed. So you can destroy player ships and take them off the board. When you do that, you get what's called a frag token, and that frag token is worth points at the end of the game. However, every time you ram a ship, you are also taking damage. So you need to be very careful about when you do this. It's possible you'll destroy your own ship in the process. The last thing you can do while you're out here on the board is drop off your modules. You're going to see these cubes that have already been placed in areas on this board. Everywhere you see this little symbol that looks like a lunar lander, that is where you're going to be able to drop a module and score points. Now, again, there's a player aid that shows you how all these modules are dropped and which ones can be dropped in which places, because there are some rules according to that. But theoretically, you can drop a module on your turn. To do so, you're going to look at the maneuverability of the ship that's doing the drop. This is a precise maneuver. So you look at your ship's maneuverability number, and then you roll a die. Now this is the only time that this die is used in the game. So you're going to roll this, and if you meet or exceed the target number, you're going to drop your module. You're going to remove the module from your ship, and you're going to place one of these cubes of your color down in the space that you dropped to. And this is a area control object of the game. You're going to see each of these planets is going to score you points based on how many cubes you've managed to drop. Now, there's only a certain number of spots in each of these, so to get max points, you want to drop as many modules as possible. But there is always the possibility that you're going to fail in that module drop. And keep in mind, you can move every one of your ships. You're not just moving one, and you can move them. You can spend as much energy as you want to move. So you can kind of stretch out your turn, and you can take a bunch of different actions, drop a bunch of things at once, as long as you have required energy. Once a ship is out of energy, all it can do is kind of float around and slowly regain one energy every turn it does that. So, but once you've decided you're done, you pass all your actions, it goes to the next player. And again, they start with that preparation phase. They get their 5 credits. They go through all the preparation steps, all the space exploration steps, moving their ships around the board, and play just continues like that in a clockwise order. At the end of the round, nothing special happens. You just tick up the turn marker so you can keep track of the game. And the game is played over 8 turns for a 4-player game. At the end of 8 rounds, you're going to score everything you've done in the game. The first thing you score is that area control I just talked about. So you're going to look at each of these areas, and some of these areas just have small spaces. This one, for example, is just one space. So you're going to look around and you're going to score all of these different areas, and you're going to get points based on how many cubes you have in each of those areas. That is where the majority of your scoring is going to come from. Next, you're going to look at your missions. Your missions could score you victory points on your turn. Some of them give you other things if you've completed them, but a lot of them do give you victory points. So you're going to look at your primary and secondary objectives and see if you've completed them. And you're going to give yourself points for that as well. In addition, you're going to get points for all the resources you didn't spend in the game. You're going to get 1 point for every 10 credits, and you're going to get 3 points for every 1 XP. So I had said earlier there's some ways to get experience points. Those convert directly to victory points, so that is another great way to score. After that, you're going to look at those frag tokens. And like I said, if you knock somebody out, you get a frag token. It's worth 5 victory points at the end of the game. So you're going to add up all these victory points, and that will tell you who wins the game. There's not really any scoring done during the game. Most of it is done here at the end of the game. So that is Exploration. It is on Kickstarter right now. So if you want to try your hand at a little space exploration, check out their Kickstarter page, and then come back here and please leave any comments, ask any questions. Let me know what you think about the game, and I will do my best to respond. And thank you again for liking, subscribing, watching our content, and following everything we do, and I will see you next time.